I'll go ahead and call to order the Tipton Community School Corporation Public Works Session for the school board. We have first on our agenda the always exciting property casual insurance renewal
Oh, yeah.
presentation by Dr. Glaze.
Yes, and it's always a big surprise on how much this is going to change from year to year, and so this is certainly not an exception this year. Essentially, what we're doing is we basically have no change in our coverage, so our coverage is staying about the same. The biggest change, which is happening to many school districts and many other groups like us, is change in deductibles. Deductibles are going much higher, and we originally quoted a 1% deductible, which is 1% of the value of the building for which you need to do repairs. So our most expensive building is this one, the middle school, and this part of the elementary is considered one building. So if we were going to have to replace a roof, it would be $430,000. They talked them down to a $75,000 deductible, which seems to be more of the going rate. We were talking to our friends at Northwestern. That's what their deductible is. That's still pretty steep considering that it's been around $20,000 until now. So what our friends at Walker Hughes recommended was a deductible buy-down insurance, which is around $10,000 annually. So we just kind of did the math and we thought, well, for $10,000 to save essentially 65, that probably, that would make the most sense. So that's what we are recommending. Again, it's the insurance business is definitely becoming harder and harder to navigate, and with just the amount of hail and wind damage that's happening around this area, again, it's just kind of the way that the whole thing is working out. The other part is sexual abuse. Currently, we have a $1 million cap. They recommended that we would go to a $2 million cap, which is more of the industry norm. Again, that's going to be an additional cost of around $10,000 for that increased coverage. I think it's probably a good idea for us to move up to that $2 million cap, and just to try to make sure that we are covering ourselves in case something like that would happen. And we certainly always hope nothing like that would happen. But I just think that's a wise move as we're moving forward.
Question.
Yes.
So the 10,000 is in addition to what we're paying for the 100.
Correct.
So what are we paying for the 100?
What are we paying for the 100?
1 million.
Or 1 million? That is broken down on that form that's in the packet. I can look that up and tell you. But it's I don't know, Scott, do you have that?
I don't see it on the packet.
It may have been in the original proposal.
I don't have it.
Yeah. I can find that out for you. And if we've got a little time between the two meetings, I'll go grab that packet. I want to say it was like $6,000 for the 1 million, but I'm not exactly sure. So
I just wanted a reference, kind of.
I understand.
Whether it was like 50,000 or 5.
Yeah,
or...
yeah. I'll get that for you. That's a good question. So overall, our premium, without adding the additional coverages, was going to be an increase of about 6%, which seems to be kind of the industry standard right now. Adding the two additional coverages, so that $20,000 extra of additional coverages would increase it about 15%. Again, I would just recommend although we don't ever like to spend more than we have to on insurance, I feel like that it would be practical for us to consider those increases. And then the total annual premium is $276,549, and Walker Hughes is great and allows us to pay that quarterly, so we're not taking that hit all of the time. So beyond Tammy's good question, which I'll be glad to answer, are there any other questions about the insurance?
That's the total cost. That's not above what we
Right,
paid for in 25,
right. Yes, that's the total cost.
total cost.
Total cost. That's the 15% increase. When Scott talks about the calendars, I'll go get that and be able to share that with you. Any other questions? Okay. All right. The high school curriculum material adoption. Hello, Denise. How are you? I know it. You are perfect. The adoption for the high school is some additional novels. Currently, we have a novel-based curriculum that seems to be working well in our secondary English classes. There's a combination of full class novels and novels that are used more for literature circles, so it gives kids some choice and some small group opportunities for reading. We also have some that are differentiated for our multilingual students and also special ed students. So these are high interest novels that are at a lower reading level, but still match the type of genre that all of the other students are reading. So some variation in the reading level on some of those. The committee included 3 parents, 2 community members, 2 administrators, 1 board member, media specialists, and then our 4 ELA teachers. The adoption was organized and run by our friend, Mrs. Kehoe, and she did an excellent job. And the novels were selected by the instructional staff. They are high interest novels. So again, novels that are definitely in that young adult, early, late teen kind of approach. And I maybe said the wrong thing there because then he's giving me a funny look. And anyway, but she can answer that question more. So we did complete an evaluation and a recommendation form. We met twice to discuss novels. Mrs. Kehoe completed the board report that is in your board packet. The total cost for the adoption is around $4,000. And does anyone have any questions regarding any of that? I'm sure that Denise would be glad to answer any specific questions.
I was just gonna say, isn't there included a savings from that? Because didn't you pick up some copies of novels from another school or another place that you told
Yes.
us about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight that. I just thank you so much for doing that and just, being aware of utilizing what was given to us for free. So,
Right.
yep, and that was good.
That is a good book. I like that book.
Is there a Dolly Parton book program that I
For
read
children.
about? Yes.
Yes. Imagination
Like
Library.
elementary
Mhm.
or something.
It's not,
Yeah.
Element.
It's yeah, and we, to my knowledge, we don't have a lot to do with it. I think it's given out to individual families, not really run through the schools. If I'm not mistaken, Sarah, isn't that correct on the Imagination Library? Is that, yeah. So, but again, it's just kind of an outreach from some kids, or some where parents can go and sign up, but it really doesn't have a lot to do with the schools. But actually great books in the Imagination Library. Any other questions regarding the high school adoption? Okay. Middle school curricular adoption. So middle school went a different direction. We did that because the middle school is going to move to more of a similar type of adoption that we had for our elementary. We've heard from on high that IDOE has put some blessings on some programs. Everything that we looked at had the blessing of the IDOE as far as the components of the program. More importantly, they really want to be able to tie what's happening in middle school more to the science of reading. And so that's one of the criteria they're looking at closely when they're providing this list of programs that that can be adopted by our middle school students or middle school schools, I guess. Anyway, the committee included 3 parents, 1 board member, 2 administrators, and 4 teachers. Committee reviewed 4 IDOE approved programs and narrowed the selection down to 2 programs. And they were Savas and Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. The committee's final recommendation was Savas, My Perspectives. The adoption will include digital licenses for the students along with classroom sets of hard copy books. And then a full detailed report is in your packet from Mr. Ayers. The total cost, which is obviously a little bit more expensive than what we are doing for the high school, is $43,722, and that would be the adoption over 6 years. So that would be a part of the 6-year adoption. So we would use this for 6 years. They are going to continue to use classroom novels that they have. So, and they've already been approved by the board in the past. And there are some of the novels that that are included that are part of the My Perspectives curriculum. So it'll add well in that perspective. Anyway, John, do you have anything you would like to add?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, it worked packed prepared for you guys to kind of went through the process. One of you got a front row seat to it. Obviously, I will share that just kind of as Dr. Glaze kind of mentioned, there is a high level of accountability in middle school environment, which is a good thing in terms of ILEARN, and that's why the IDOE does have those computer and some pre-approved curriculums. We actually did look at some that would have been more cost effective, but those lacked alignment with Indiana standards. They lacked a lot of the nonfiction rigor, the writing that is included in it. And I'm very happy to see that the SODIS one, actually all of them we looked at, but in particular the SODIS one, is a comprehensive literacy curriculum, which is going to ensure that across the school year that reading, writing, speaking, reading, writing, vocabulary, there we go. Grammar is all included as part of it. It's happening all of it. So this is actually of the ones we had narrowed it down to, the most cost-effective one, but not compromising quality. Actually, we did feel like this was the most high-quality one in different iterations of digital and paper. So I'm very much so looking forward to this. I have a couple of kind of collective commitments that we as an ELA department in middle school are going to be ensuring. For example, comprehensive language curriculums are really designed to be done in whole as opposed to piecemeal. And so, we're going to make sure that when we're implementing this, we're implementing it as a whole as opposed to this piecemeal. We also, one thing that we did notice, and I guess I will just add this briefly at the end here, none of the curricular materials that we had really addressed that very low struggle. A lot of good scaffolding, a lot of good differentiation for a wide variety, but unfortunately, the reality is that we do still have things in the middle school environment 5 years ago, if that on key literacy instruction, no curriculum really addressed that. So, sort of separate from this, we are actually partnering with the WVEC to ensure that next year we're identifying and then intervening with those really, really low readers to ensure that even the most struggling reader in the middle school environment is getting the help with the support they need to code and do some of the sort of building blocks of foundational literacy that, unfortunately, by virtue of what the last 6 years of being an American sometimes had for us. So, I think it's very exciting, an exciting time, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all gets next year and the ELA PLC and that's happening.
Maybe you already said this, but can you tell me what the WVEC is?
WVEC is the Wabash Valley Educational Consortium,
Yes.
which is the professional organization that we are a part of here at the Corporation. We get free and reduced price professional development for that, and they have a literacy coach who actually provides some instruction, not only full staff but also for ELA teachers as we're going through that. Thank you for the clarifying that.
It's okay, it's going on the list.
No, there are a series of education service centers that are throughout the state. We're very fortunate with being a part of Wabash Valley that they have really taken on this idea of going and coming in and providing coaching. So it's not a one and done. It's not like they come in and, talk about these great things, but they're actually, with us in the trenches, kind of looking at how we're teaching and how we can deliver instruction better. So we're fortunate to be able to have that option for us. It is at a reduced cost since we are part of the consortium, so it does work out well.
Any other questions?
Price wise, if we were to not do the digital, and we would just stick with hardback books, how would that differ in price?
That's an interesting question, actually. We got quotes from all of them for hard copy books as well as for consumable workbooks, but at no point I can consider not having digital. I actually have a quote for that because that was never something we kind of like about having the Chromebooks is that you can take a book with them. At the same time, physical copy of it, point to work with. There's also value in that. I do, just from my conversations with the different companies that I communicate with, I don't have a whole lot of experience seeing that companies nowadays say, yeah, it'll actually be cheaper if we do physical books. It tends to actually be more expensive. But
Yes.
I don't know that for sure. I could ask that question. I'm sure the captain can provide a quote. Obviously, doesn't change the fact that it's not curriculum, still a wonderful curriculum.
Yeah.
Look at the price of that.
I would guess the pricing would be similar. The difference would be shipping. The shipping is just where
You and Scott could
those,
take another.
I know it. And, but that would be the killer, I'm guessing. And typically we go try to do the first one. But there would be cause that's the most expensive shipping. But the rest of the 5 years, there would still be a shipping cost if I'm not mistaken. Am I right or wrong?
In my experience, and I still don't thoroughly understand this, they don't charge you at all for shipping if you pick it up the first year.
And-
I can't explain it. I honestly
Okay.
still confused.
But
I've
why-
asked several times.
So why did we go road tripping?
We road trip because if you don't get it, if you ship it the first time, then you get the full charge. But if you
Oh,
pick it up
okay.
the first time, they don't charge you ever. That's been true in McGraw Hill. That's been
Yeah.
true with Savis. I don't
That's
question
weird.
it. I'm just thankful for it. So
That's weird. We can get as long as we can approve the adoption tonight, we can figure out what the price
I'd
would
be
be.
interested to know.
Sure. Yeah. We can do that. And we did talk a little bit about it.
Well, and like I mentioned, we got quotes that were the same for all the corporations or all the companies we were looking at to make sure we were comparing across the different ones, the same thing. And we did get quotes on getting consumable
Yeah.
materials to talk about, the active, pencil in hand,
Yes.
working with the material. If the consumables were significantly more expensive for all of them, of course, if it's going to help students build literacy skills, it's only worth spending. At the same time, could we adopt, a hard copy book so that we're still annotating and, doing similar literacy skills? Yes. And a part of our PLC. I will, however, ensure for this meeting, I'll get a quote from Thomas on what it would cost to do paper on both consumables or hard copy. See if that would be more better.
I think you're probably just referring to lots of data coming out about the efficacy of the book versus the digital.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I would be I would love for there to be no digital copies of books here.
Yeah.
But I understand the cost implications, but I also think if there's a trade-off and we get better results in our testing and things of that nature because they are learning better, I think there's a cost benefit analysis there somewhere.
Yep.
Even if it's break even,
Right.
That the physical book, research is saying is the way for us to go, but I think, we're turning the aircraft carrier kind of in the canal. But,
Yeah.
I'd be interested in that cost difference as
And-
well, so.
And that was a question that I had, basically, because I'm a big believer in annotating. And you can annotate on the digital side, and it actually kind of works, but I'm not sure the beauty of annotating is being able to go back and I'm not sure how easy that is on the digital side. So that's part of, we had that conversation. So I'm a big believer in annotation, so.
We did spend some time in the committee figuring out how to digitally annotate.
Right.
It's, again, not the same as
yes,
highlighting by
Right.
hand and all of that,
Right.
but we did spend time
Right.
doing that.
right. I think we can definitely take a look at that. We'll get back there. Yeah.
Literally writing an email and
Yes, absolutely. Okay, any questions on that? Good questions, good dialogue. All right, calendar. And I'm going to take off and go, since I have nothing to do with this.
Yeah, step
I'm
away.
handing this off.
So this year we put together a calendar committee that was advertised through newsletters, through social media. We ended up getting representation of families from each of our 3 buildings. We got administrators from each of our 3 buildings, and we actually got teachers from just 2 of our buildings. Our middle school teachers were just happy to be along for the ride. So did not get any teacher representation from middle school, but I feel pretty confident that our committee had a pretty wide perspective when we were putting this together. So what you're looking at right here are the calendar options for 26, 27. We actually did 27, 28 first. That was the original purpose of the committee because we had already adopted the 26, 27 calendar. That's been out for about 9-10 months now. The reason for going back for a potential recommended revision is twofold. One, the committee simply asked, they're like, hey, can we take a look at next year's calendar? We had a few things we'd like to recommend differently than what was officially adopted. So I said, well, since the last calendar was really more kind of a made up for me and going back and forth with the board, I thought, we can put forward a recommendation if they want to accept those changes, we can. I'll talk about those in a second. The second reason was we actually made a slight miscalculation. I forget, it must have been somewhere lost in the translation, but we actually scheduled an extra day in the previously adopted calendar. I was just so excited to get everybody back in. So we had 178 days. We only need 177 days scheduled for the school year because we had a 3-day waiver that we filed for. That's good for another 2 years after this. It's what we use for professional development days. So in any case, here's what you're looking at. Here's kind of, I know it's hard to see right now. Shared this with you guys a few weeks ago. It should be in the packet, but just the big adjustments that were made. Just looking at first semester, the first thing we actually did was moved the professional development day from the day of September 11th, which is the Thursday or Friday of Pork Festival week. We actually bumped that back to before the start of the school year. That was a really big push from our staff. They really valued having that professional development day to kind of kickstart the year, not a month into it. So I said that shouldn't be too big of a deal. I know we had originally talked about putting that on that Pork Festival week in the hopes of kind of alleviating some attendance concerns, but they so kindly pointed out to me that Thursday is usually when we have the most absences because of Pork Festival events. So again, I said I don't think that should be too big of a deal. Because of that 178 days, we decided what would work out nicely, and it's actually what we did with the 27, 28 calendar, is we decided to bump school back a day. So we'd actually start on a Thursday, not a Wednesday. That works out really well for the high school. So the high school is shifting to just a straight blue-white schedule, not a blue-white-silver day type schedule. So by having it on Thursday and then school again on Friday, all of our high school students will see all of their teachers that first week. It also creates that kind of short week transition back into school. That's helpful for our students, helpful for our staff, and great for transportation as we kind of fix some of the bugs in the first couple days of busing. So we felt like the start of the school year, that was a good shift to that. There really wasn't any other change in the first semester. That was it. The biggest changes that they recommended came from second semester. And bear with me as I kind of explain the steps that we followed through in this. So one of the issues they saw is they didn't really like the 2-week gap between the end of the school year and graduation, but they also really, really did not want to have graduation on Memorial Day weekend. They felt like that was a really poor idea. So to kind of split the difference there, and also from a middle school and the high school perspective, we have finals that we give to those students, and they felt like it would be appropriate to have a sort of shortened week focused just on getting those final assessments out. So what this does in this calendar, instead of ending on a Friday, we're going to end on a Wednesday. So that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is kind of your finals shortened week. With that said, those 3 days have to be made up somewhere, right? We've added 3 days, so we need to take off 3 days. So where they recommended those 3 days be taken off, 2 at the end of winter break, they felt like that would be, I think we had something similar to that this year, and that was, they felt a really nice little transition back in from a long break. So they wanted to have it there. And then they decided to add a day at the start of spring break. They liked having, liked the idea of coming back just clean on a Monday, get back into things, especially with iLearn testing that comes pretty quickly after spring break. So adding that one additional day to the start of spring break, they felt was the best placement for that. The other thing we talked actually at length about in, I think, a couple of our sessions was the idea of flex days. Now, the idea of flex days, again, if you're not super familiar with flex days, the whole purpose of them is that if the weather's going pretty poorly in the middle of winter, we have some days that we can say, okay, this is an off day. We'll come in and make up that day another day in the winter. Usually that would be President's Day is probably the most popular one. One thing, and this is strictly anecdotal, I haven't done enough digging into our actual attendance data. Anecdotally, there was a feeling that those flex days were typically poorly attended days because people, when they see them on the calendar in August and September, they're like, what's this day? It's a flex day. I'm gonna assume that's going to be a no school day. Sometimes it's no school. Some days, some years it is a school day. So the idea behind the committee was they kind of wanted to eliminate flex days. The downside to eliminating flex days, I will tell you, is that it puts us in a bit of a pickle because if there are a bunch of inclement days, we've had pretty good luck recently with weather. I think this year we've only had 3 days where we had to cancel. The state recommends that you have 5 days built in. We technically have 5 days built in. 3 of them are your remote virtual learning days. And then we actually have the Thursday and Friday of that finals week. We could add in and create that 4th and 5th day for makeups. If you have a really bad winter and you end up missing more than a week's worth of school, that starts pushing us past Memorial Day. That starts getting us closer and closer to graduation. And we know that our high school needs at least, at minimum, 3 full days before graduation to prepare for graduation. And so realistically, that puts us at 6 days for makeups. If we were to go beyond that, because again, I'm not going to compromise student safety, we would have to push back graduation at that point. Again, that is kind of the push-pull on flex days. We could certainly put them back in, but it was the consensus of the committee that we kind of were moving away from flex days. We honestly, in the previous calendar, only had 1 to begin with, so it was one day difference. They thought, just be done with it. We'll deal with it. If we end up having a pretty bad winter, where we do have to close excessively, we should know all of those days before spring break, and that gives a few months to kind of plan out how that's going to impact graduation. So that was the recommendations for the 26-27 calendar year. Do you have any questions about that before I move on to the 27-28? All right, Dr. Glaze, we want to swap me over there. This is the 27-28 calendar. Again, this one fits really neatly with the recommendation for the 26-28 that the committee put together. Again, we'd start August 5th. That's a Thursday. We would end May 24th. That's a Wednesday. Again, gives you that shortened 3-day finals week at the end of the year. Graduation, again, less than 2 weeks from the end of the school year. It's going to be on June 3rd. Breaks, you'd have fall break is still 5 days. Winter break would actually be that 2 weeks plus the due date, 2 days coming back. Spring break would be the 2 days before and then the full week after that. We eliminated the flex days. Again, we have the 5 built-in makeup days, 3 asynchronous remote, and then the May 25th and May 26th. And then you throw in your days off, Labor Day, MLK Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, those would stay in there as well. So, again, not that one really aligns pretty closely what the committee put together for the 26th, 27th. So I feel like I'd be just repeating myself if I said the exact same things again. But questions on the 27, 28 calendar? And whoops, I should say 27, 28. Calendar is always fun. I will say this: I thoroughly enjoyed, and I think the committee thoroughly enjoyed having these meetings because it's. I'll say this: it's really easy to criticize the calendar. It's absolutely a target that everybody can get behind. But until you sit down and start realizing, okay, we've got 177 days when you get in here. Oh, but we want to make sure we have this. Oh, we want to make sure we have that. I mean, we had several times where like, okay, we can do that, but you have to say goodbye to these things as well. And they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And so it was a lot of fun, give and take. I enjoyed it, just seeing someone else struggle with it. So I wasn't just suffering alone. But yeah, if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to let me know.
Okay, to go back and answer your question, Tammy, about the general the sexual misconduct liability is actually an umbrella policy. It's $30,000 altogether. The adding the 2 million per claim would raise it to 10,801. That was in the quote. So yeah. So.
Thank you.
But I can't give you a definite number. Because it's just covered under that umbrella policy. So as far as what we're paying now for $1 million. So. Okay. Any other questions along those lines? Okay. All right.
Then we have to review our board agenda for our next meeting. I don't know if anybody had any questions on that, but we've got the approvals of, we have our standard fare, right? Then we have the approval of the Public School Foundation that we talked about in the last meeting. We have approval of the English language arts curricular in the high school, the approval of the middle school curricular material adoption, and we have the recommendations to approve the academic calendars that we just reviewed, and then the recommendation to approve the property and casualty insurance renewal. So, and then the only other thing we had was to consider the approval of the technology team and the compensation that came out in the Friday email. And those would be any other items for the agenda from anybody on the board. All right, hearing none, I would say we have a good agenda.
Okay. Awesome. All right.
All right, well, with that, I will go ahead and conclude the work session. We will be back online 6:30 for our regularly scheduled board meeting. So we are adjourned.
We designate that we would do one for a developer to build like 40 houses.
If that's okay. Quote Jack Donnigan, 30 Rock, never go from hippie to a second rotation.
I know
Yeah.
you
I'm a little nervous.
But on the other side of the road. So there's utilities there, which would appeal to. I mean, I didn't know if we could put in. Yeah, filters. And right now, FFA, well, and then other farmland that perhaps they could use. I know the foundation has 20 acres. I don't know if farmers or if it's public, how they do that on public notice for the city and the county and the foundation, if they put out bids for cash grants. Like how that. FFA. Oh, I'm sure it is. Well. So what are we at? Okay.
You want me to run the slide?
It was also. But I heard that. But they do not if the developers do it. They've got utilities. I mean, that's the big thing. There's other farm ground too that, like the county owns, that is considered the poor farm. Oh. Yeah. And again, I don't know who's cash renting that right now. But they've got quite a bit of ground off Fairgrounds Road. And I know utilities don't go to Max's Court. And I don't know if they actually go to the fairgrounds. And yeah, there's approximately, I measured it on Beacon, approximately 24 acres behind utilities.
regions. Right, this is the point in the agenda where we have a tell me something good, members of the board. Anything encouraging or you want to highlight from your time at on campus or around the community?
I'll restate about the FFA program. Hold it in a little bit.
There we go.
The FFA awards ceremony that is on Sunday, April the 19th from 2:30 to 4 o'clock. You all haven't received any information. I'm sure it's probably on the website. Okay, all right, thank you.
The eighth graders just got back from their trip to Washington DC. I got to go on that, and the students all did a really nice job, I think, representing our school. And Mr. Bales did a great job planning the whole thing and making sure that it went off without a hitch. Just a few little bumps in the road, but it was a great time. So
It was a great time. Beth and I got to go, and I think there were 75 students. It was a great turnout. I think we had over 120 total, but yeah, the staff and Mr. Bales did a wonderful job, and we all had a great time. The weather cooperated. Some highlights. We got to see the president's helicopter actually flew over
Yeah,
us.
I heard.
which
I
was
heard.
neat.
Yeah.
And then I think his motorcade actually hit by. They weren't sure if he was in it. So many people.
Yeah.
But it was really neat. It was a great time.
Very good.
All right, well, we will move on then from that to the Blue Future Awards, and I believe elementary is up, so they're out of the bullpen, so they're ready to go. All right,
I would like for Atlas Jackson and Meridian Smith to please come up here, please.
Cute.
So this is Atlas and this is Meridian, and they are both second graders at Tipton Elementary, and they both received a perfect score on their iRead test. And that is a big. Both of these students are very hardworking, well-behaved students who try their best and who are both reading above grade level. So congratulations to both of you. Atlas, this is pretty great job.
Awesome.
Yes, stand right over here real quick. Quick picture. Ready, one.
Okay, and I am excited this evening. While you look outside and you wouldn't think it, winter was not that long ago. And we had really two incredible winter sports seasons. We're actually going to honor one of them in May, and that is the wrestling one, but we are going to honor swimming tonight. So if you were a coach or a student who was on our swim team, not as many were able to be here as I would have liked, but I'd love for those who are here to come on up so I can go ahead and honor them. And courtesy of Ms. Faig and pulling some strings down the road, we have not only the joy of honoring these people, but we also get to, as part of it, have some props behind us, which is that we've got a brand new records board that is going to be going up as part of our swim project that we have going on at the pool. Now, for those of you who have potentially been able to admire this, you'll notice that especially on that left-hand side, there are quite a few updates, and that was part of the reason that we needed to make sure that we got this done. And I want to honor some of the people who were part of that. We actually have two of them here whose names are going on that record board. And I like how Dean stepped in front of Annie. That was good. Okay. You know what, Dean? We'll start with you. Why not? Let's go for it. So Dean is showing up on this records board 3 times. Thank you, Dean, for giving me the 3 there. And Dean, if I'm not mistaken, you broke the record in the mixed 400 freestyle relay. And the 2, yes, I was going to get to the other 2. Thank you, Dean. Okay. And the mixed 200 medley relay, as well as the mixed 200 freestyle relay. Is that correct? Everyone, a round of applause for Ms. Dean. Dean joins 2 other individuals who also got 3 new records. So Jackson Stout is on there as well, as is Evelyn Faig, if I'm not mistaken. And then there are 3 individuals who were part of 2 broken records. Those were Zoe McMahon in the 7th grade, as well as Kami Condict in the 8th grade, and Luke Conwell in the 8th grade. So a round of applause for those individuals here. And unfortunately, you are going to have to step aside because, it's not every season that you have someone like Annie Hare, who I am incredibly proud to acknowledge broke not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, but 10 records this past season as part of her 7th grade swim season here. So a huge round of applause, everyone, for Miss Annie. And those were all in, by the way, the 200 medley relay, the 100 IM, the girls 50 butterfly, 400 freestyle, 200 freestyle relay, mixed 200 freestyle relay, girls 100 backstroke, girls 100 breaststroke. She re-broke that one, if I'm not mistaken, right? She broke it one time and then broke it again. Girls 400 freestyle relay, and the mixed 400 freestyle relay. So, Annie, I'm looking forward to having your name on this records board for quite some time. Now, you're welcome. You're welcome. Now, I do want to acknowledge, because obviously we have more than just these 2 swimmers here who have broke records. One thing that I am consistently just so impressed by our swim team, and we're so blessed, obviously, with the leadership that we have and our coaches here at our middle school and, of course, our high school swim department, but also the kids themselves. When you are at a swim meet, there's just a different vibe. There's just a different energy. It feels like you've got kids who are supporting each other, kids who are there with each other, and goodness knows you don't just break records by yourself. You break it with the support of a team behind you. It's been so invigorating to watch that happen for the last 2 years. I know it's going to continue for the next many years, especially with the leadership that we have at the helm. So honestly, our middle school swim team is just something that at the end of every season, I foresee that I'm going to be standing up here every April and saying, hey, here's our middle school swim team, continue to do great things. So a round of applause for all in here. I have so many awards. I'm not even going to hand them out until after. So let's just take a picture, then we can get the awards handed out. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So, okay, thank you guys. Okay. And again, thank you for helping out with the records. Oh, and they won the MIC as well.
That's right. That's right. That's right. All kinds of stuff.
Right. All right. Well, next on the agenda is comments from the community. I don't think we had anybody sign up for that today. So we will move on to our consent agenda. I would give my public service announcement if you were here for a Blue Future Award and you want to leave, this is the appropriate time to do so, or you're going to get pulled into a lot of really interesting conversations on the consent agenda, et cetera. So thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Our next item on the docket for this evening is our consent agenda. We have the approval of the agenda that we went over this meeting earlier. Approval of the minutes from our regular session on March 10th. We have approval of claims from payroll March 13th and March 27th and April 10th. And then we have the AP claims for April of 2026. We have the approval of the personnel report, which I will read shortly, and we have the approval of field trips, 2 of them. One of them is the FFA Leadership Overnight Field Trip, and the other one is the High School Senior Trip 2027. Mr. Leach out of the gate hot on that one already. They've literally parked the bus, and he's in here with the next.
We had so much fun.
And then the approval to accept this month's donation. So I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda for this evening.
I move to improve the consent agenda. Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or further comments from the board? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. The personnel report for April 14th, 2026. From a certified staff position, we have Carol Sanquinetti, a retirement effective at the end of the 25-26 school year. We have a retirement of Amy Cole, math teacher at the high school, effective at the end of 2025-26 school year. We have Denise Keogh, English teacher in the high school, retiring at the end of 25-26 school year. And Sheila Harrigan, French and Spanish teacher in the high school, retiring at the end of the 25-26 school year. We have one resignation of Emily Pafford, the ag teacher at Tipton Middle School, which would be effective at the end of the school year. From a classified staff perspective, we have a leave of absence request from Erica Hawkins, requesting a leave of absence. And from an ECA staff, we have the recommendations of Ethan Galster for the girls' head track coach in the middle school, and Catherine Rushton for varsity girls assistant track coach at the high school. From volunteer perspective, we have Kara Conger as the volunteer softball coach at the high school, Emma Pratt for the volunteer girls tennis coach at the high school, and Brian Pierce as the volunteer golf coach for the middle school. That concludes the personnel report for this evening. With that, the next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report.
All right.
Dr. Glaze.
So we're excited to say that the pool deck installation is complete. The Dectron unit is installed and operational. Starting block installation probably in the next couple of weeks. Pool painting is happening right now. So that is part of the warranty work that was needed. So that's being redone this week. And then kind of a new thing, as we were draining the pool, we found out that the pump that helps us to drain the pool really needed to be rebuilt. And so we're in the process of doing that at this point. So that's kind of new on the horizon, but a much needed upgrade. Here are some pictures of the new pool deck.
It's really pretty.
Yeah, it looks great. And I tell you, I'm really, really happy that Mr. Vester, he saw this finish at Kokomo and thought it really looked great. So he made this all happen. So if we had not gone to Kokomo, we would not have used that. So it's a great finish and it has an incredible grip. So if you have a chance to walk on it, you'll notice the grip is pretty darn awesome. So anyway, we're excited about that, and that went off very well. Re-roof update. We are completing the metalwork on the Inferno. That's probably going to still be a couple of weeks because we have to do some metalwork on the east side and the west side and the downspouts. So that's going to take a little bit of time. The connector in the band room just completed today. So that's out of the that's off of our list. And then they are transitioning to the vocational wing. Projected completion by the end of April on the roofing in general. Metal work will probably be early May. So about a month ahead of schedule, considering, kind of the weird weather we've had. I think they've done a great job. And once again, want to thank R.L. Turner and also Henshaw Roofing. They've just been great. Playground, we met with the city, I guess it was yesterday, and to discuss the demolition. They have experience with demolition of some playground equipment. That's going to begin June 1st. And they expect that to take about a week, depending on weather. Might take a little bit longer. So we're looking at install, depending on how long it takes for demolition, to be either June 8th or June 15th, about a 4-week install for the playground. So we're hoping that it'll be completed by early July. And one thing I would like to do, and I will send some information out about this, is a groundbreaking ceremony that would include you, as well as Tesso and the Community Foundation or the Tipton Foundation, and also the Campbell Family Foundation. So we definitely would like to have those people involved. So once we get everything demoed, and we'll try to send out an invite for those. We'll give you a couple of weeks' notice, but thought that would be a nice thing to do and take some pictures. And also planning to do some kind of a commemorative sign for those people who donated, those organizations that have donated. So again, we want to thank those people because without them, we would not be able to do this. So next meeting, we will be approving the scope and sequence and updates. We also will be beginning student handbooks. That's a little bit of a question because we're still waiting on a few of the changes in legislation to be updated and policy given to us. This is particularly along with the personal devices and the changes in the law along with those. We just want to make sure that we get the correct language in those handbooks before you are set to approve those. And then we're looking at June to approve staff handbooks. And that's it for now.
Questions or comments for Superintendent's report? All right, next item on the agenda is the department reports that were in your packet from the Director of Technology, from the Athletic Director, from the Associate Superintendent, or for Food Services. Did anybody have any questions or comments on that report packet? All right, hearing none, we will turn it over to Brooke Cleaver for our financial report, please.
Really quick, Rob, if I wanted to, I thought we'd let Adam come up and talk. We had a lunch audit.
Oh,
And which is, whenever you hear the word audit, you automatically go, ah! But anyway, I thought you might, but I thought you might share because it was a very good audit for us. So
Would you be willing to step over to the microphone?
do you mind going to the mic? Yeah, that way the people out there in the world can hear you. You're welcome to.
You can turn it around.
It's a little strange, but okay. Is it on?
yeah,
Yeah.
you're good.
Okay. So yeah, actually, best one I've been a part of ever. Really proud of our staff. We don't have the finalized audit, so I don't want to go into too much detail until she emails it to Brooke and we can fully go over it. But the initial hearing where we had to go over the stuff that she found in technical assistance, she said that it is the first time she's had an audit where the kitchen staff has had zero findings on production, on prep, on service, on paperwork, logs, direct certification, applications, and verifications and privileges. So she said she's never been a part of an audit that has a zero finding in every category that could possibly touch a kitchen manager, basically. So, so yeah, Chris knocked it out of the park. Chris Smith in the high school and all of her team. The team was very knowledgeable. They had new people there, not new, but pretty new. And they were well versed in all the rules. They answered all the questions right. She was just very pleased and expressed tons of kudos to us in the meeting. So we are super proud. And there were some minor technical assistances they want us to work on differently, how we calculate some numbers, how we store paperwork, things like that. But overall, we are very pleased with the audit. So yeah, great job.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. We like to celebrate those cool opportunities. And again, thank you to our food staff. They just do a tremendous job every day. And sorry about that.
Nope, that's
Yep.
fine. I'm the anchor man. I read what's on the table. There was something
Me
else
too.
needed.
Me too. Me too.
I repeat everything that's on. So, okay, Brooke, now is the
Okay.
financial report.
Thank you. We ended March with a balance in the education fund of $817,200.53. Operations, $367,730.24. Debt service, $532,748.57, and rainy day remains at $2,035,833.41. March interest income totaled $22,710 and a penny, and we did make a transfer from education to ops in the amount of $100,000, and we are anxiously awaiting our circuit breaker actual loss report from the state. So they projected us in the budget to be at $876,300. Our loss last year was actually $505,210. So that's a significant loss should it come true. Also, a first for us, we made our first Medicaid reimbursement request. February services totaled, we billed for 67 speech services for Medicaid eligible students and received back $4,827.35. Part of that is a federal reimbursement, which goes to its own fund. You'll see a new fund on your fund report, 6460. And part of that is a state reimbursement, 170180. That goes into a separate fund on the fund report. You'll see it a new fund, 3250. And then we will take the state portion. They offset our large basic support grant payment every month. They offset this state portion against that. It goes in a separate fund. Then I have to move the money back over to the education fund. That's just what the state board requires. So we were excited to see that happen. So.
Right. Any questions or comments on the financial report? Right, hearing none, we will move to other business, and Dr. Glaze, it is you again for cost reductions.
Yes. This will be tag team by Scott and I. So just basically wanted to start out just a really quick review of our finances and how finances work here in schools. We obviously have three primary funds, the operation fund, education fund, and debt service fund. Just to review, the debt service and operation fund are supported by local revenue sources, property taxes, local income tax, which is going to begin a phase out, auto excise tax, and then commercial vehicle tax. Debt service may only be used for capital improvements to district facilities and cannot be used for pay or salaries. So again, these are two funds, debt service and operations, that are strictly coming from local property taxes and local funding sources.
And one thing I'll just add to that is our debt service fund is very much protected. That's the one that gets paid first. First and foremost, we pay our debts first. That's a requirement. That's something that the state makes sure we uphold. And then operations is what is left over from that then.
The operations fund, just as a reminder, that supports our day-to-day district operations, including transportation, utilities, maintenance, insurance, and district administration. May be used for certain employee wages and benefits, particularly transportation and maintenance staff, central office personnel and administration, and most of the remaining operations fund are fixed expenses such as energy, water, insurance, and maintenance. So you can see that 37% is transportation and maintenance staff, and 15% of that overall is for central office personnel and administration, with the rest of that being for those miscellaneous fixed costs. Education fund is the district's largest fund. It's supported exclusively by state funding formula based on student enrollment and must be used to educate students. Teacher salaries and benefits account for approximately 67% of the education fund. I'm sorry, 68% of the education fund. When building level, then building level administrators, counselors, support staff, paraprofessionals, nurses, and extracurricular stipends are included additionally to the 67%. That adds up to about 89% of the total education fund dedicated to salaries and benefits. The remaining education funds are used for curriculum, professional development, classroom materials, instructional technology, and instructional supplies. Up to 15% of the education fund dollars can be transferred to the operation fund on an annual basis. Currently, we are transferring about 7% of our education funds into the operation funds. The impacts of SEA 1 2025 are already taking effect with the transfer of more dollars from the education fund to the operation fund. Last year we transferred about 3%. Now we've moved up to about 7%. Beginning in 2027, TCSU will be forced to transfer the maximum allowable amount just to keep up with costs, despite the continued cost reductions.
And just to reiterate, again, Dr. Glaze mentioned that about 89% of the education fund is going towards funding personnel, whether that's instructional personnel or aides or nurses. When we say we're going to shift from what we were at around 3% transferring from education operations to currently 7% to eventually next year up to 15%, that is money we are taking away from the education side of things, from instruction, from what's happening in the classroom, to maintain our buildings, keep them open, running, when the chiller's working air conditioned. But again, those are real consequences to the lack of revenue that we're facing. It is the way I've heard it and repeat it being framed as is, this is not a spending problem. This is a structural revenue problem. The funds are no longer there that we've been able to rely on for years. And now we're having to supplement our operations funds with dollars that should be going to the classroom.
So again, together, these financial and demographic conditions explain why even modest enrollment declines, in addition to SEA 1 revenue deductions, create significant long-term fiscal pressure for TCSE, and why multi-year cost reduction plan is necessary to maintain fiscal stability. So as we try to do, we're trying to respond in the Tipton way. And so what we did is we developed this expense reduction and review committee. The purpose was to really review all expenses. There were several of you on the board that were a part of that committee. We're identifying what's academically critical, core content, which really comes down to math, reading, science, and social studies. Recommend areas for expense reductions, and really establish a 4-year plan. And the idea of this 4-year plan was to develop a plan without additional revenue. So additional revenue is not something that we can count on right now. And so being able to take a look at it from that perspective is critical. Nothing is exempt. Every area will be impacted.
And again, we're already starting to see that. I mean, you guys obviously, we have the retirement incentive. We had several teachers take advantage of that. And while that does provide some short-term relief, the ultimately, again, without the additional revenue, there are going to be some pretty significant reductions across the district, things that are more programmatic and not just comforts, shall we say.
So once again, looking at eliminating unnecessary spending. So basically going from a wants to a needs basis of decision making. Finding revenue sources. We've looked at adding that transportation fee, which has already been approved. The Medicaid reimbursements are beginning to come in, and then you probably have heard just some information about our facilities usage fees and how we've increased those, and how we are being a little more critical of how our facilities are being used and by what organizations are using those facilities. And then reduction by attrition. No vacant positions. Again, we're looking at every vacant position and deciding whether that needs to be replaced, or if we can find some economies to be able to eliminate those positions and try to determine how that will impact overall programming. So understanding the consequences of decisions: fewer dollars equals fewer services, fewer personnel equal fewer programs. Protecting programming when possible. So we are trying to do that by splitting responsibilities and by sharing staff.
One of the conversations, I mean, the many conversations I think I've had over the last month or two with staff in various positions, it's a change in expectations. We understand that when when personnel is reduced, the same expectations cannot be held. When we have fewer dollars, fewer resources, fewer people working these programs, we cannot expect the exact same result. We understand that there's going to be changes. So whether that's a reduction in a music program, whether that's a reduction in an agriculture program, whether that's a reduction in maintenance or custodial services, there are consequences to the decisions that we have to make. We do not make those decisions lightly. It is not as simple, oh, well, let's save a few $1,000s here, a few $1,000s there. These are people's livelihoods. These are students and families, things, traditions that they look forward to year in, year out. These are difficult decisions that have to be made. And ultimately, we have to understand we have to run a school. We are held accountable for certain areas of our school, not every area of our school. And that's why we kind of emphasize when there are fewer dollars to go around, there's fewer services that we can provide, fewer personnel means fewer programs. And ultimately, it's not what any of us want, but it's what we need to do in order to keep our buildings operating.
So, starting this last summer, we knew that the homestead exemptions were going to go into effect in 2026, which would decrease our revenue by around $280,000. The total reductions that we were able to accomplish were $989,560. And the way that happened was through the elimination of one administrative position, reduction of one technology ed position, elimination of TMS athletic director, elimination of two bus routes, technology and software consolidation, as well as administrative salary freezes. So if you remember correctly, we did give stipends to our administrators, but they did not receive an increase in pay.
And I will say that each of those positions that were eliminated was through attrition.
The Expense Reduction and Review Committee established a number of annual financial targets to position TCSC for full impacts of SEA 1 2025 by the fall of 29. The full financial impact of SEA 1 property tax losses coupled with decreasing student enrollment will decrease TCSC funding by approximately $2,700,000 annually, or approximately 13% of our annual budget. So this is projected out for next year, 26, 27. So what we are looking at, and this is again the result of the Expense Reduction and Review Committee. So district level cost reductions, we're looking at curriculum material budget reductions of around $50,000. We've been working through that process as we speak. And our teachers are well versed in we've always been able to provide everything that pretty much teachers have asked for. We're just not able to do that, and that's where that $50,000 is coming from. ECA field trips, transportation costs. So that's about a $70,000 reduction in what we've been spending for those particular activities. Reduction of a tech specialist through a resignation, that's going to be savings around $41,000. Superintendent transition savings, as Mr. Jaworski and I flip roles, there will be about a $30,000 decrease in overall expenditures. And then the elimination of a full-time classified position around $32,000. So at the district level, we're looking at a reduction of $223,967. Elementary level cost reductions, we are looking at 6 full and part-time paraeducator positions that will be eliminated. Again, or hopefully those will be handled through attrition, and in some cases they've already been handled through attrition. And then reduction of 1 certified teaching position through a retirement at a cost savings of around $71,000. Grand total for the elementary is $166,618. Middle school level cost reductions. We're a reduction in 1 music position, and that is because Mrs. Haynes is paid out of the middle school budget. It's just where she's placed, even though she has middle school and high school responsibilities. She is paid out of the middle school budget, so that's why she appears here. And then reduction of one ag education position through resignation, and that's around 71,554 for a grand total of 149,62 cost reduction in middle school level. At the high school level, this is we've eliminated state reporting support for a cost savings of around $26,000. The reduction of 2 math positions through retirement, $176,000. Reduction of 1 world language position through retirement, $86,000. The reduction of 1 ELA position through retirement, and that's a savings of around $108,000. Total reduction at the high school level is $387,658. So just to kind of put this all into one slide. So over this year and last year, there'll be a reduction of around 9 certified positions and the reduction of 10.5 FTE classified positions, so full-time equivalent. The subtotal of the reduction is around 937,000 for this next year. However, we do have around 90,000 that we will have to put back due to the retirement incentive. There is a higher cost for year 1. The cost for the remaining 4 years will be about half of that amount. So a grand total of savings of around 847,307 for the 2026-2027 school year.
One thing I do want to make sure I point out is that, again, we talked about, consequences of SCA1, consequences of dropping enrollment. Those are the external factors that are impacting our revenue streams. That number that you see there, 847,307, is a representation of our first real serious year of reductions. It's going to make life uncomfortable around here, but overall, the majority of things, day-to-day operations, won't change dramatically. There are a few programs that will see limitations, like we talked about before, but if you're on the outside looking in, it doesn't look like anything's too dramatically different. That number represents about a third of the amount of cuts that would need to happen in the next 2 to 3 years. So if 1/3 is making us in an uncomfortable state, 2/3 is going to create some serious structural changes in the way we operate as a school district. Long-term consequences of this would end up being fewer course offerings at the high school. Again, like I said before, fewer personnel means fewer programs. Fewer dollars means fewer resources. Limited electives, especially non-core, that's across all 3 buildings. Larger class sizes across grade levels, reduced student support, fewer extracurricular opportunities, less staff prep time, increased bus ride time is a potential, and maintenance challenges. These are real things that are going to start impacting us in 26, 27, and will only get more dramatically impactful in 27, 28, and 28, 29. Like I said, you might be noticing these kind of conversations happening in your community. You'll notice them in the news where you hear other school districts and the drastic measures they're taking to get in response to SCA1. This, like I said, our expense reduction committee has put together a rough 3 to 4 year plan of how we are going to get under that $2.7 million in annual costs to our corporation. Again, that 4 year plan started this past year with some general tightening the budget as our enrollment drops down. 26, 27, we're seeing a more intentional reduction where we can, trying to do that through attrition. In 27, 28, without some sort of additional revenue stream, we're going to see nearly $1 million worth of cuts. And when we are already pretty bare bones as far as maintaining what we've done in the past, that $1 million there represents a dramatic shift in the way Tipton Community Schools operates. We will continue to operate. It will just look a lot different. In 28, 29, we'll have to see another $500,000 on top of that. Again, ultimately, we're trying to get to that $2.7 million in order to have a sustainable financial situation moving beyond the 2020s.
So the 2.7 is through 2029. But I feel like you've said both ways, that it's 2.7 per year or 2.7 from 25 to 29.
Once we get to that 27, 28, 28, 29, when we get to that, we're going to have to maintain that $2.7 million in order to keep us above water. Because otherwise, what ends up happening, if you recall from the policy analytics presentation, if we don't start making these cuts, and particularly without an additional revenue source, if we don't make those specific cuts, we start overspending and we start going in the negative. And as you know, we cannot be in the negative as a public school corporation. So those cuts without additional resources would need to be made in order to keep our head above water. That's why we're not making the $2.7 million right away. The cuts are going to come over time, but by the time we get to that 28, 29 school year, ultimately it's going to be $2.7 million. And then
Plus every year.
from there,
It's a loss every year.
it depends on how, where our enrollment goes. And if there is any change.
I would say that we would need to clarify and tighten up that language, because you can read the presentation and it looks like we're in a $2.7 million deficit annually.
Okay.
And it doesn't explain that happens
Starting in
29.
28, 29.
So I not.
Yeah,
you know,
no,
I'm-
understood.
But I would tighten up that language, because that is a little bit confusing. If it's confusing to us, it's probably going to be really confusing to the taxpayer.
Understood.
So, but that we get to the 2.7 and then it's ad nauseum after
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
And then this doesn't factor in all of our expense increases with electricity, property and casualty, all those things. This is just if we stayed the same as is today.
This was maintaining, as far as I'm concerned, right? That was last week policy analytics. There was a small increase. If you call, I think you pointed that out, Rob, in their presentation, that their estimates were well below what we had been experiencing for the last couple of years
Right,
as well.
and that's
So,
all I was drawing
yeah.
out, is that the best case scenario, this is
Correct.
the number.
Right.
If we see food prices, diesel fuel, all those things continue where they are, it's worse faster,
yes.
correct? Okay.
So estimating for 27, 28, again, our 4-year plan, we're looking at trying to eliminate 927,000 from the 27, 28 budget. That would include 2 administrative positions, 4 certified positions, 5 classified FTE positions, a 10% reduction in our extended contracts, and a reduction in athletic and academic stipends. Like I said, that is going to represent a pretty significant alteration in the way we operate as a school district. And then in 28, 29, to get to that final 500,000 from that year, that's an additional 4 certified positions, 6 classified full-time employees positions as well. Again, that's the general plan for now. Obviously, these things will change as more information comes available to us, but that is our current projections as a school corporation. Do you guys have questions, concerns, thoughts you want to share? Us?
The quality of education.
Mhm.
What's that going to do to our students? What's it going to do to teachers? If all of the math teachers retired next year and you have to have a social studies teacher teach math, or, I mean, how are you going to be able to keep the quality that I believe we have right now?
So what we would be doing is we'd be looking at what positions, we're looking at positions, not necessarily people, right? And that's something that we try to be really intentional about, is that we're looking at positions, not people, and understanding that people fill those positions. So if we were to lose math teachers, math is part of the core. We are obligated to provide math instruction. That is a state accountability issue. So we will make sure we have certified math teachers teaching our students. Like we mentioned in the presentation, your core is going to be about as protected as anything in that respect, because that is what we're held accountable for. It's those electives Those additional things that aren't necessarily measured by the state, that would probably be the first ones that we'd have to take a close and hard look at as far as what is the possibility of retaining those positions. But as far as concerns about quality in your core content, we will still maintain certified teachers in your core content.
And then are there state regulations on the number of children per teacher?
No,
Per
I
class.
mean, there's fire code for the room capacity, right? But as far as the number of students that can be assigned to a teacher, no.
That's a local decision.
So by eliminating so many aides and paraeducators, like our teachers will still have jobs, they just might hate them.
It will be fewer resources because of fewer dollars, yes. These are part of the challenges that we will have to face. Like I mentioned before, this is certainly not something that any of us are looking forward to. It's kind of the reality of the situation that we have in front of us. Again, the drop in enrollment, the SCA 1 impacts, these are kind of external things that happen to school districts. One of them is a bit imposed by the state legislation, which is a whole separate conversation, but and we are certainly not alone in these conversations. I know across, like I said, if you check the headlines, you'll see across the state. I know ones I'd heard about. I know Sheridan had a conversation with their community about this same thing, I think a month ago. I saw in the newspapers, Richmond Community Schools is having some pretty serious cuts to their certified positions as well. It's a reality that comes down the line. It looks a little bit different in each district because each district has a little slightly different situation, but one way or another, everybody's feeling this.
Yeah, HSE is in the process of not filling positions. So I know that we have a friend who's an art teacher who's going to be teaching preparing for college and careers next year because that's the position that's available because they're eliminating an art teacher. So again, those things are happening all over the state. It's just a reality of where we are.
So if the hypothetical,
Mhm.
if all of the school districts who have had to make cuts, if the scores go down, do you think our legislature and our governor would look at that to see, oops,
I am not going to
okay.
hear about what our legislature or governor is going to do about the situation. I'd like to believe that. I'd like to believe that they would see some of the consequences and maybe make an adjustment. I will leave my opinions at that.
Okay.
I wasn't part of this committee, but I can see that it took a lot of time from our administrators and committee members, and so I just would love to say thank you. It's a really, really hard thing. It's fun for me to meet as part of an English language arts adoption committee, but these kind of things are really hard. So I just want to say thanks to all of you who've put a lot of time into doing the really hard things.
Any other questions or comments? All right. We have no old business on the agenda, so we will move to new business. The first thing is the recommendation to approve a resolution supporting the Public School Foundation. In your packet is a resolution supporting the Tipton Blue Devils Athletic Foundation established in February of 2026. The resolution allows for the school board to appoint 2 members to the board of directors and permits school personnel the authority to transfer funds from the athletic extracurricular accounts to the foundation. The board would be made aware of this transfer when it happens as part of the monthly financial report. The resolution also allows free use of our facilities for foundation functions as long as they involve school-age students. So I am looking for a motion and a second to approve the resolution supporting the Public School Foundation.
I move to approve the foundation.
Thank you, Tammy.
Second?
Thank you, Jen. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution supporting the Public School Foundation. Any questions or comments additional from the board? Hearing none, We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution for the Public School Foundation. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the recommendation to approve the Tipton High School English Language Arts curricular materials. Mrs. Keough provided a detailed account of the process for the review and selection of the THS English Language Arts curricular material in the attached document. The THS English department chose to adopt some additional novels to supplement what had already been board approved. A committee of board members, community members, teachers, parents, and administrators read each novel suggested by the department and then completed a form with their input and review, which are attached in your packet. And it is recommended the high school English Language Arts curricular material be approved as presented. Look for a motion to approve the THS English Language Arts curricular material.
I move to approve the high school English language arts curricular materials.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, we do have a motion and a second to approve the English Language Arts curricular materials. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes, and we do thank Mrs. Keough, who's here this evening, for a lot of hard work. Appreciate your service there. Next item on the agenda is the recommendation to approve the Tipton Middle School curricular material adoption. Mr. Ayers provided an overview of the curricular materials adoption process for the Tipton Middle School English Language Arts in the attached document. Instead, a novel-based curricular adoption, the committee comprised of parents, teachers, board members, and administration are recommending an ELA program created by SAVAS. Much like the elementary adoption, the Indiana Department of Education vetted ELA programs to ensure they are aligned to standards and provided supplemental support for struggling readers. The SAVAS My Perspectives curricular material was one of the programs approved by the IDOE. Looking for a motion and a second to approve the middle school curricular material.
I move to approve the TMS curricular material adoption.
Second.
All right, thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the TMS curricular adoption. Any questions or further comments from the board? Hearing none, we do have a motion and a second to approve the TMS curricular material. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Ayers. Next on our agenda is the recommendation to approve the modified 26-27 and adopt the 27-28 academic calendar. During tonight's work session, Mr. Jaworski presented calendar recommendations from the TCSC Academic Calendar Committee to modify the 26-27 calendar and adopt the 27-28 calendar. In your packet are calendars shared with the board in a March 20th email. It is recommended the board approve these calendars as written by the TCSC Academic Calendar Committee. Looking for a motion and a second to approve the modified 26-27 and adopt the 27-28 academic calendar.
I move to approve the modified 2026-2027 academic calendar and adopt the 2027-2028 academic calendar. Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, we do have a motion and a second to approve the modified 26-27 and adopt the 27-28 academic calendar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is a recommendation to approve the property and casualty insurance renewal. In your packet is the annual premium review from Walker Hughes. Our property and casualty is due for renewal this month. We have a 6.67% increase over last year's premiums. Due to changes in deductible for wind and hail damage, we purchased an additional coverage to reduce our exposure to $10,000 per occurrence versus the $75,000 per occurrence in our renewal. We also added some liability coverage up to $2 million from our previous $1 million. With the added changes, our premium will increase 15.6% to $276,549 on an annual basis. I need a motion and a second to approve the property casualty insurance renewal.
I move to approve the property casualty insurance renewal.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the renewal. Any questions or further comments from the board? All right, hearing none, we have a motion and a second to approve the insurance renewal. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the consideration to approve the reconfiguration of the technology team and compensation. In the March meeting, the board accepted the resignation of Michael Wheeler as our middle school technology specialist. TCSC determined this position would not be replaced due to the financial impacts of SCA 1. Since the reduction of a technology specialist will result in an increased workload on our remaining tech specialists and our director of technology, we are recommending a change in compensation. After polling other KSAC schools, we determined TCSC is near the bottom for technology personnel compensation. We are recommending a $2 an hour increase for the technology specialist and an increase in contract days for our director of technology from 240 to 260 at the same daily rate. The changes in compensation will place the TCSC technology staff in the middle range of all the KSAC schools. The full savings for the corporation is $41,500. We'd like a motion and a second to approve the reconfiguration of the tech team and the compensation.
I move to approve the reconfiguration of the technology team and compensation.
Second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments regarding this item? All right, hearing none. We do have a motion and a second to approve the reconfiguration of the tech team and their compensation. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, other matters to come before the board. From our advisory committee's perspective, we have no meetings scheduled at this time. And we have a wild schedule of events, so buckle in, folks. This is going to be a second. April 18th, we have the Tipton County Safety Fair from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. On April 23rd, we have Tesso's Father-Daughter Dance at 5 p.m. On April 25th, we have the high school prom. April 28th, we have the Internet Safety Meeting in the Inferno at 6 o'clock. May 1st through 3rd, we have Tipton High School's musical production of Annie. May 4th through 8th, we have Staff Appreciation Week. May 6th will be the TCSC Employee Banquet. May 8th will be the elementary school's spring music program at 5:30. May 9th, you will have the YO reunion concert. May 10th is Mother's Day. Got to remember that. May 11th is the middle school spring choir concert, and May 12th we'll be back here for our next monthly board meeting at 6:30. I need a motion and a second to adjourn our meeting.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we are adjourned.
I would just like to encourage everyone to vote on May 5th. Being apolitical, every vote counts.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tammy.